But here in the earth, we are regulated by time. So most of the things that we do are connected with time. So you've got to know that it controls us, and we plan around it. Even if you don't want 2017 to come, it will come. It's being regulated somewhere in the atmospheric and celestial heaven. You don't have to like it. Even 2016, is it some of us can say, hey, I don't like this year. No, it won't run fast because you don't like it. Do you understand? So even if you say, me, I'm too comfortable with 2016, I don't even want 2017 to come because I don't know what it has for me. No, it will come. These are set somewhere in the atmospheric and celestial heavens. See? It's like seasons in terms of winter, summer, autumn, spring. Some of us, when it is summer and it's very hot, we complain. Yes. We want grit without mentioning that, hey, it's too hot. As though we can change something. You see? Then we complain, and then we mourn, and then we go on about it. But it's still hot. You see, one thing with seasons is, it doesn't care about your feelings. You see? The same people now are complaining during summer, it's too hot, then winter comes, then it's cold. We won't finish a greeting without saying, this year, it has never been cold like this. And I don't know how we test it sometimes. You know, okay, but let's leave that part. But then all of a sudden, we are complaining of the cold. So what do we want, actually? God gives us the heat, it's a problem. You see? And then He gives us the cold. We say, no, the heat was better. Because even if you didn't have enough clothes, you could survive. No, but when the heat was there, we never said the heat is better. You see? We said even winter is better during the time when it's hot. We say even winter is better because you can buy more blankets and cover yourself. Hey, this sun, there's nowhere to run. You see? So now, if God was going according to our feelings, it would be a problem, because even if He asked us, what do you want? Say it was summer. He says, what do you want? We would have said we want winter. Then winter comes, we complain. He says, what do you want? We say we want summer. So these things are being regulated somewhere without our control, without our influence, without our feelings. Are you hearing what I'm saying? It's important for you to understand that. Okay, because of time, I'll have to skip a few other parts, but at least maybe I must explain this part, that we can look at this and then say that I said firstly that the heavens witness the glory of God and declare that He lives forever. Secondly, heaven contains signs. They contain signs establishing God's promises. The heavens don't only declare the glory of God, they also contain signs. They contain signs. What kind of signs? Well, they contain signs like the rainbow, which signifies that God will never destroy the world by a flood again. Genesis chapter 9, verses 12 to 16. That rainbow is a sign of God's promise. God says, I will never again destroy the earth with a flood. It means it doesn't matter what the earth do. No, it has to look for another way if it must be destroyed. That's why even Sodom and Gomorrah, maybe you could have given them a flood. You see? But He saw, I've already made a promise to the creation that I will never again destroy the earth with a flood. So when we look now at the rainbow, as beautiful as it is, we can be reminded of God keeping His promises. Are you hearing what I'm saying? So that one day, even when you're sad, you can just see that rainbow and see that if God kept that part of the promise, what would stop Him from keeping the part of the promise that He gave to me? Are you hearing what I'm saying? Okay, what other signs, for example? The innumerable stars, an object lesson of the abundant way God will fulfill his covenant with Abraham. So God would always say, for an example, Genesis 22, verse 17, Exodus chapter 32, verse 13, Deuteronomy chapter 1, verse 10. God would say to Abraham, Abraham would come to God worried. He says, Lord God, what will you give me? What will you give me, seeing that I am dying without a child? See, this was his cry. And God says to Abraham, look now towards heaven and number the stars. Just count them. Abraham, tell me how many they are. And then Abraham looked up. He tried. 1, 2, 3. Okay? No, there are too many. They cannot be numbered. God says they cannot be numbered. Abraham says, yes, Father, they cannot be numbered. God says, so shall it be with your descendants. They shall fill the earth. But he didn't have one descendant. But God used the sign of the stars to show him, Abraham, you may not have a child right now, but your descendants shall be as the stars which cannot be numbered. Is there somebody in a situation today that they say, you know what, I've tried everything. I've tried everything. I've tried working hard. There's no money. There's no breakthrough. There's nothing happening in my life. You see, sometime God will give you a sign of his creation. Just to look at and see God keep his promises. Amen. So Abraham looked at the stars. He could not number them. But to this day in the earth, you cannot count the descendants of Abraham. God kept his promise. When we go out at night and see the stars, even if we think that God has not kept our promise, but we can at least rest in the knowledge that he did keep the part of the promise with Abraham. He is a covenant-keeping God. Now, if God kept covenants with the saints of the old, there's nothing stopping him now from fulfilling the promises that he made to us. Are you hearing what I'm saying? So this is not like our everyday way of teaching, but we've got to do it because when you're declaring this kind of seasons, you're declaring seasons in the faith, seasons in the church, seasons in the lives of the people. People have got to understand. You see, if I want, I can just come here and just say, it is the season of the open heavens, and then I don't even open a verse, and then we pray, we pray, and then we get home, and then a week later, when life now is too hard, the devil says to you, you are even talking about an open heaven. Do you even know what heaven is? You tell the devil, I don't know. I will find out in the church. No, that's bad. But the devil had you saying, this year is the year of my open heavens. And then life is tough. The devil comes to you and says, do you even know what is heaven? Now, you say, no, I will ask the pastor. That is you who was saying it. Because it's not every time that the devil is hearing the pastor. Is it now we can stand in the church and make declarations, but one day it's you at your workplace that is saying, I decree and declare an open heaven over my life, over my workplace. So it's you that is talking at that time. So if somebody, even if a colleague asked you, what is this heaven that we are talking about so much? You cannot say, I will ask the pastor. But the pastor was not talking about heaven. It's you who was talking about heaven. Are you hearing what I'm saying? So that's why sometimes we've got to teach and go deeper like that. But because of time, we'll have to skip other things. But okay, let me just cover these few parts. And then I wanted to say thirdly that God displays, he puts on display miraculous signs in the heavens. For an example, fire comes down from heaven to judge, for an example. Genesis chapter 19, verse 24. But fire also comes from heaven as an acceptance of a sacrifice by God. Right? What is the verse there? The verse there is is 1 Chronicles chapter 21, verse 26. So fire can come from heaven as a sign that God has accepted our sacrifices. God provided the Israelites with bread from heaven during their wilderness trek. God gave them manna from heaven. Exodus chapter 16, verse 4. God stopped the sun's movement in Joshua chapter 10, verse 12 to 13. You know that if the sun stops, there's an interference with time. Even if it stops for 1 hour, the whole world will lose time. Are you hearing what I'm saying? But it stopped in Joshua. It was a sign. And then God also used a star to pinpoint where Christ would be born. Remember the wise men from the east, right? Okay. God spoke audibly from heaven on occasions. We have seen, when we read Mark chapter 1, we have seen when the Father spoke after the heavens were open, and he said, "This is my beloved Son, in whom I'm well pleased," right? And then fourthly, I wanted to say that the vastness and inaccessibility of heaven are visual reminders of God's transcendence and God's eternity. When Solomon prayed at the dedication of the temple, he acknowledged that the heavens, even the highest heaven, cannot contain God. 1 Kings chapter 8, verse 27. Now God has not made heaven easily accessible to us during this time when we are in the earth. Because if we could live in both the earth and the celestial or atmospheric heaven, we would be dangerous people. Are you hearing what I'm saying? Alright. But later on we'll teach some other time how then do we access heaven when we are in the earth. And that is where now you will begin to understand that man or a woman is not just a physical body, it's a spirit that can have access to the heavenly realms. And going into the heavenly realms doesn't only mean going there to do only good. There are also people who go there to do evil in the earth. Because they know that if you can get the sun to communicate a good message, the sun will do it. But if you can speak evil on the sun to send evil to a group of people or to a part of the earth, it may also happen because the sun lights the whole earth. You see? That's why you can speak good into the sun, but you can also speak evil into the sun. But it's not things that you just wake up and just say, "I'm speaking to the sun now," because it will cause problems for yourself. Because the sun can hear. Are you hearing what I'm saying? The moon can hear. Hey, no, we mustn't take it too far before we teach on it clearly, right? Okay, but that is just what I wanted to say. And then part of what I also wanted to say was, now you have, where is the dwelling place of God? Now, the dwelling place of God is now the spiritual part. We don't go there in flesh. Birds don't fly there. Doesn't matter which birds fly deep in the air. The sun doesn't go there. Right? That's why John, in the book of Revelation, when he speaks now of the new heaven and the new earth, he says there was no moon and there was no sun. God does not need the moon to light his day. Are you hearing what I'm saying? God doesn't need the sun to give light to him. No. We'll teach on some of these things and when time goes on. Then I could say that heaven most commonly refers to the dwelling place of God. Heaven is where the glory of God is expressed in pristine clarity. The term glory, therefore, has probably been used as a synonym for heaven. Romans chapter 8, verse 18. Actually, God's glory is above the heavens. Psalm chapter 113, verse 4. Because it is the sum total of his attributes that are expressed wherever he is present. Exodus chapter 13, verses 21 to 22. In heaven, there's a continual acknowledgement of God's glory. Psalm chapter 29, verse 9. Various figurative expressions identify God's heavenly abode, such as the highest heaven. When we look at 1 Kings chapter 8, verse 27, and then it also refers to the heavens. Amos chapter 9 verse 6. And then it also refers to his lofty palace in the heavens. Amos chapter 9 verse 6 that I've said. And then, but what is more important for us to say when we speak about the heavens is what we call the heavenly perspective. And then I'll move over now to the decrees, and then we can be able to finish. But this is what I want to say. When we speak about what is called the heavenly perspective, this is what we've got to look at. God is making a special invitation to human beings to adopt his heavenly perspective. Is it in life there's an earthly perspective, but there's also a heavenly perspective. That's why when we